Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
All right, well, that brings us to our main feature, Halloween Kills, which we both got a chance to see. But not only us, Brian, we have two special guests on the show tonight to participate in a roundtable discussion of this movie. It is our good friends, Steve and Ken, who you've heard us talk about many times on the show before, but they're finally here together.
Yeah, well, Ken's been mentioned, but he's never been on. But Cone has been our man on the street, but now he's actually got an official role here tonight. He's filling in for Jamie Lee Curtis, who canceled at the last minute. She was supposed to be on, but
well, it's great to be here with you guys. I appreciate the invite.
This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be super fun.
Yeah, we figured it needs like a special thing with this movie because of course, we're all big fans, but the reviews have been more polarizing than I expected. So we figured it'd be kind of fun to get like four viewpoints other than just me and Tim, who probably are going to differ slightly. I think just a little bit of a little preview there, but still, I think it'll be fun. We'll get four viewpoints of this tonight, so it'll be fun. So I guess, Tim, if you want to just start off with our usual little housekeeping.
Yeah, so we usually
get the names of everybody in here.
You packed the entire cast.
I put the whole. Well, if you look at the opening credits, this movie, they literally have this entire cast.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see if we can struggle through this. Of course, we have Halloween Kills that came out this year, actually just a few weeks ago, which was supposed to come out actually last year. Correct, Brian?
Yeah, it was supposed to come out last year. And actually, we should I should say that once again, I've been keeping a secret for 2 years that I had seen again. I had gotten to see an early this time test screening of this film. So I could mention that a little later about some of the differences that I noticed. But I've been good. Once again, I kept my my thing I signed that I would not talk about the film until it was released. And of course, with the delay of the pandemic, that made it even harder because then I thought I was almost out, and then I had to wait one whole year again before we could discuss. But it's now we can discuss it, so this is good. But yeah, so it was supposed to come out last year, of course, due to the pandemic. They decided to push it back. Well, the funny thing is they pushed it back so it could come out in the theaters, and then at the last minute, they decided to do it in the theaters and streaming on Peacock, which has forced me to finally get Peacock.
Yeah, me too. All right, so directed by David Gordon Green, starring Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, Judy Greer as Karen, Andy Matichak, I always mess her name up, as Allison, James Jude Courtney as the Shape, Nick Castle as the Shape, Aaron Armstrong as the Shape, 1978. The great Will Patton as Officer Hawkins, Thomas Mann as Young Hawkins, Jim Cummings as Pete McCabe, Dylan Arnold as Cameron Elam, Robert Longstreet as Lonnie Elam. Get your ass out right from there, Lonnie. Anthony Michael Hall. That was a terrible Loomis. Sorry, I was in the middle of reading and trying to do a Loomis impression at the same time.
You're under the weather. You're forgetting.
Yeah. Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle, Charles Cyphers as Lee Brackett, Scott MacArthur as Big John, Michael McDonald as Little John. It's so weird. Kyle Richards as Lindsay Wallace, and Kylie Richards as Lindsay Wallace, and Nancy Stevens as Marion. The saga of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode continues in the next thrilling chapter of the Halloween series.
Yes.
So, I will have to say to whoever does these focus movie group things, Brian will not break NDA for anything. Like, I haven't heard a single peep out of Brian in 2 years about this movie, even though we're talking on private Zooms, we were talking like in person where nobody would ever find out. Brian has not told me a single thing about this movie.
I take those NDA clauses seriously. I don't want to be sued. I grew up in a family of lawyers. I know how serious that could be. So I didn't want to do that. I mean, people did ask certain questions, and it was all vague. Like I think Cone, you asked, right? You had asked if I had liked it, and I just said yes. That's about it. So I think Cone got froze. Oh no, there's Cone's back. He's back.
Professional. I gotta say, I don't think I would have been able to hold it for that long. So good for you.
It was tough. It was tough because I mean, 1 year is hard enough, but then 2 years, you'd never expect to see a movie in a test screening, then 2 years later it comes out. But so that was tough. But when we get into certain sequences, I think is when I'll share some of the stuff that I think changed. One of the things I thought we'd start off with, I think, which is kind of good, and I saw this because I saw someone post this on Twitter, that they asked specifically about Allison's character. They said, did you like Allison, played by Andy Matichak, if you liked her better in the 2018 version or this new version of her in Halloween Kills? So I said, well, that's a good idea to go through all the main characters that were in both films of 2018 and this one and see how you think they developed. So I think first, like, I figure we'll go to the obvious, the easiest one, like Laurie Strode. And I guess we can go around. We'll go, I guess, Tim, you could start because you're in the left corner of my screen there.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of let you orchestrate this whole thing, Brian, because you're good at pointing out who should talk about what. But yeah, Laurie Strode, I thought was, and this is one of my chief complaints of the movie, was so underused in this film. One of the thoughts I had going in was, or going into this episode, was that a good Halloween movie needs to focus on either Laurie or Michael or both. And I thought that this movie just really underused her. I mean, granted, I understand as a character, she was injured at the end of the first one. She's kind of, she's not in any condition to fight right now. So understandably, she's laying up in a hospital bed, but it's not a fun place for the viewer to see Laurie Strode in a Halloween movie. She has no interaction with Michael. I just thought she was criminally underused in this movie, and I think that's one of the biggest complaints I had about it, was because you basically, when you take Laurie out of the movie, you take away the heart and soul of the Halloween franchise. And to me, that's where this movie was lacking. Now, I've got a lot of positive things to say as well as we continue on, but that was my thought just about the Laurie character.
What do you think, Ken? You're next in the rotation here.
I'm very much with Tim on this one. So for the record, for everybody that's listening, this is something that I didn't know we were doing until about 5 hours ago. So
yeah, that was a good text you got, right, Tim? Right, Ken? I said, Ken, by the way, have you seen the new Halloween? And if not, could you see it by 9:00 tonight?
Luckily, I'd seen it at that point. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Tim. I agree. So we have not, what I was trying to say was, we have not coordinated answers in any which way we possibly could have. I think the heart and soul of these movies, at least this branch of the storyline, as we described in one of your memes that you guys sent us, there are like 6 different timelines now in this universe. But this one, I think, was definitely focused around the Laurie Strode and Michael Myers relationship. Now, not necessarily like in some of them that they're brother sister. I got it. But there is this unspoken relationship and connection between the two. And this one's lacking that. And that's one of the central things in the movies that led up to this. To me, that is the best part. Not just that, but they took that a step further and actually kind of beat that down and subdued that concept even more by Officer Hawkins saying something to the effect of, "Oh, it's not you. He's after me. It's about me. It's not about you." And then they go to the well, it's all about, he's just evil, and it's about him and the rest of the world. So I feel like that got that concept got underutilized, and like Tim said, having those two never face off at all, never even see each other, felt like a real big missed opportunity. I felt like that was kind of a down check.
All right, Cone, you're up.
All right. Same thing. I understand why they had to sideline Laurie, but you have everyone else, all the other survivors, dealing with the same thing. It's like, why did they survive? Why didn't Michael get them? And it's tough when you're basically, this movie's a lot of setup. It's all, building to the final rematch, basically.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was going to say too. So it's, it was a tricky thing they needed to do, because I think they're trying to establish that it's not, like Ken, you had said too, like they're really trying to really push it that this is not about Laurie and Michael so much. But right now they're saying that. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they kind of found a way to connect them a little bit closer in the third one, in the finale, like whether it be a final battle, whether there be something that makes Laurie special, because she is special, and they need to still keep that, whether it's that he's after her specifically, which we know he's really not. But at the same time, she needs to be special because she's special to the fandom. She's special to the story. She's one of the most famous final girls. She needs to be special some way, whether it's that she's the one that finally, vanquishes Michael. That may be the way they do it, and they want to build it up so it's more of an impact. I don't know, but it bothered me, and it is slightly, but not as much, I think, as it did you guys, because I think, I kind of like that they're trying to establish something, and and I go back to, I think I've seen this a couple times, is that sometimes this movie, like for example, like Empire Strikes Back, right? When that was not well received when it first came out, and now it's pretty much known as like the best Star Wars movie. I think sometimes, and it's hard, but when you do have a trilogy, that middle movie always seems to have a tough battle, and it sometimes gets more appreciated once you see the whole product. But that doesn't, I'm not trying to make an excuse for it either, because there's still ways to do it that it doesn't always stand out so starkly. But yeah, I mean, I think what Jamie Lee Curtis did in the role for what she had was good. She still had her toughness. She still, as much as she could, and she still had her drive to kill Michael. And but I think it was, I mean, it's definitely, you want her to do it. But then again, would you think people would complain possibly if they said, oh, it's Laurie versus Michael again, 2 movies in a row? Maybe they wanted to stay away from that. I don't know. And they wanted to save it for the finale.
I think there's some good points you made there. We don't really have the full context in this one. I have to say that, first off, spoilers, yes or no? What are we doing? I got to be sure I don't mess
Yeah, no,
this
you
up.
could do spoilers. We'll give an announcement before.
Good. But bottom line is, other characters don't do so well in this one. It seems like she'll have to be around in the end. There has to be some sort of final girl for her, or they're really screwing up. And I don't think that they're going to miss that opportunity. It was just a shame. And I think answering the straight up, no context question of how did you feel about the role? I think she did absolutely the best of any of the actors in there. She's hands down, she nailed it. It was still the same Laurie Strode you always saw in all the other movies. She's still the same badass that she always was. It's just that the character from a writing perspective, when it comes to the script, I think was underutilized, just like Tim was saying there. But as far as she goes, good Lord, you couldn't ask for anything better out of an actress, especially in a role where she's basically rolling around a hospital bed for 90% of the movie.
But she did get up a couple of times.
Yes, not very long. Didn't go so.
So I guess let's move on to her daughter Karen, who was, of course, was one of the newer characters introduced into the thing. So into the storyline there, so as opposed from 2018 to this version, like from her introduction, how do you think her character was? Do you think it advanced properly? Do you think it which version did you guys like better? I guess we'll start again with Tim. We'll do Tim. We'll always do Tim Ken Cone. That's the easy way to, I think, do this.
I think this might be a controversial statement, but since we're doing spoilers here, I think it was the right move to kill her off, because I think she's a unnecessary character. She's Laurie's daughter, but she was never set up to be the final girl. It's always been, at least the Halloween 2018 always seemed to me like it was setting up Allison to be the final girl and the one to carry on Laurie's legacy. So Karen was just a kind of a middleman that was not really needed, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't. She's fine in this one. She's obviously concerned about her daughter, which any parent would be. I thought she was maybe a little nonchalant that Allison took off to go hunt Michael Myers. She didn't really seem too. It was kind of weird. It struck me as protective as she was being over Allison. Telling her that she was going to stay there and not go out and go hunting and join with the mob. She seemed rather lackadaisical about it after it already happened. Maybe because she couldn't do anything about it, but I don't know. It struck me weird that she just, she didn't really freak out. She was kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, Mom, she's I'm sure she's fine. And she really just didn't seem like she was showing that much concern about it. I don't know. maybe that's just me reading too much into it. Anyway, I thought she's always been an extraneous character, so good riddance in my opinion. And that's no I don't want to mean that to mean any reflection on the actor at all.
Yeah, because I mean, there goes Judy Greer ever coming on.
No, Judy Greer's awesome. No, I don't. It's pure. I'm purely talking about the character.
Right.
Here.
No, I know.
I understand her role in 2018. I understand it was an important role, but I don't see how you continue that role through 3 movies. So what they did, I understand.
All right, Ken, you're up.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that she departs the pattern there at the very last. I think it's good for the story. I think that was one of the better pieces of the story. I think they should have led up to it a little more dramatically. I think they underplayed that one because I think Judy Greer did a fantastic job in the role. I mean, I'm a big fan of hers in most everything she's in anyway, but she's never played a role as solidly for me as she did in this movie. I agree with Tim that the script really was lacking in the motherly protection that she showed in part 1. She was a very clingy, protective mom, as she would be with a serial killer running around. And obviously in this one, she didn't show that. It's almost like, wow, hey, she ran off trick-or-treating with her friends without letting me know first. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh, well, tough. So the reaction was all off. I completely wrong. I don't think that was well written. But the actress played the part, I think, perfectly. I think that character in my mind was always the bridge between Laurie and her granddaughter. And even though she didn't support her mother and thought she was crazy, she is the character that brought the granddaughter and her together. And without her there, it wouldn't really make much sense. I think, like I said, that they should have led up with a little more drama to the final outcome of her being killed by Michael. But in the end, solid performance by the actress, a little poor writing. Not my favorite role in the movie. And overall, though, I think it was definitely necessary the way it was in the end.
Okay, Cohn now is a self-proclaimed Judy Greer fan, so maybe he will defend her honor here fully, even though you guys didn't bash her as an actress, of course, just her character. But let's see what Cohn comes up with. You know what? Let me go until Cohn comes back then. So yeah, what I was gonna say is I think there is, she definitely played the bridge character. I think she had a kind of an interesting role too, because she had to like kind of play both sides, and of course she did. She had the, that really surprising like turn in the first one where, you thought she was just never going to accept the role that she was this Laurie's daughter, and she was never going to, she's forgetting her childhood, all this stuff, not wanting to do it. But then she had the great gotcha scene in the first one, and then they repeated that in this one, which I liked as a good callback. I also I thought she was really good in this one. I thought she had a lot of heavy, more of a heavy lifting kind of in this one. And I think the only reason why, and I think this was maybe the way they edited it is because I think she probably was still, when she was worried that she left, I think it was she kind of thought that at that point, Michael was still coming to the hospital. So maybe she figured that maybe that, I don't know, maybe she just realized that maybe that's the better thing is that she's not there. But either way, it was weird. It was either edited weird or written a little weird. But another thing, I think, why, as much as I actually liked her character and I loved the actress, but I think they had to kill her off for one reason, because you've pretty much established in this at one point, and this was going on simultaneously, that Laurie was no longer had this real connection with Michael. So she needed now a driving force to reinvigorate her desire to kill him. It's not that he's coming after her anymore. It's been told that now, you know what? He's not after you. The doctor brought her over. He wouldn't have even noticed where for all he knows, you moved out to Cleveland. It wasn't until Sartain brought them back together in that one. He was obsessed with it. It seemed like he always was that audience character. Like everyone wanted to see them together, so they're going to force it. But in this one, they established that that's not what he's there for. So I think you needed now that revenge factor. Now you needed Laurie's drive again to reinvigorate her desire to kill Michael fully now. And I think that was, granted, there was always the fact that he did try and kill her once, but I think there was probably I think they wanted another motive for her to go after her and get that rage. So see, Cohen, you got cut off, so we jumped in. Go on as if it was just after Ken's turn now.
Sure. The daughter's Karen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen, I feel like is the proxy for Laurie Strode in this one. She's the one who starts trying to figure out what powers Michael Myers in this one. Is it really fear? In the group mob mentality, she's the one who's trying to get control in the hospital. So, and of course, she's the one who goes to try to save her daughter ultimately.
Right. Yeah, that's a good
I didn't
point.
mind her.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And speaking of said daughter, we go to Allison now, who, like Tim said, was kind of like you almost just thought she was going to be the new Laurie Strode in the first one. They were going to set it up. And remember, when the first one came out, there was not a guarantee that there was going to be any more. It was all dependent on that. So they kind of had to, so they probably kind of set it up in a certain way that they could have more. If they did do sequels, which they did now, they could go different ways. So how do you guys feel about Andy Matichak's Allison from both the movies, from that one to this one now, if she developed well enough?
Yeah, I mean, I really like her drive to go after Michael. I mean, I think that was cool. I think it showed like some of the spirit of her grandmother, that she's not afraid to face this head on, this challenge that has been pretty much wrecking her family for decades. So I really like that aspect of her character in this one. It's like a lot of the other problems I had with this movie. It wasn't the concept, it was that the concept wasn't developed enough. And in her case, I think, she just, I like the idea that she was, she had this fight and this drive, but it also, again, felt a little bit underwritten. It felt a little bit underserved. She gets kind of swept into this whole mob mentality thing, which again was one of my major issues with this movie. I thought it was way too heavy-handed. I know we're not talking about specific plot points, we're talking about characters, but it kind of relates. I thought the whole mob mentality thing was just way too heavy-handed in this film. It distracted from Michael. It distracted from everything else around it, because they were so hell-bent on this mob mentality lesson that they were trying to hammer home. And I don't understand it. It's a lesson that could have been summed up in a 10-minute scene, and they instead make it the entire focal point of the movie. And I didn't get that, because it overshadowed Laurie, it overshadowed Allison. It was great. And when we talk about some of the new and returning characters, it was great that some of the supporting characters from the original got their chance to shine in this one. But again, as much as I liked Allison's role, I think it could have been more. I think it could have been more of the focus rather than the whole mob thing. I think that could have been pushed to the background, and Allison's story and her revenge motive could have been more in the forefront.
All right, Ken, you're up.
Yeah, I think I'd start off by saying that Andy Matichak, I think, is an extremely talented young actress doing great things with that role. I think that her performance was very solid, just like in the first one. I didn't see any letdown. I think, again, where the movie screws up is, just like Tim was saying, the use of that character. For me, the way this arc should have gone, and maybe it still will, is, in the first movie, absolutely Laurie Strode is still the badass. In the second movie here, we have a transition, just like you said, Empire Strikes Back. There's a transition that happens there. It's different from what you might expect. And then in the third one, something changes. For me, in the third movie, Allison was going to be the new final girl, the new Laurie Strode, maybe even protecting her grandmother. And we're kind of set up for that now, right? Mom's dead. Grandma's alive, but badly hurt. She's the original badass. Mom just didn't get the genes, I guess. Right? But she passed them on to her daughter. And she's the one that should be picking up the baton and carrying on here and fighting that evil. But just like Tim said, we wasted so much of this on silly little errands in this movie. The mob mentality business. It felt like a way to keep both Anthony Michael Hall, I guess he was Tommy, which is hard for me to process because I always think about Tommy in Friday the 13th now.
Yeah.
But that was really messing with me. But, Tommy and Karen busy. It almost felt like this is what they were going to be there for in this movie. And it really was mostly what they spent their damn time on, which is such a waste for those characters. They spent a little bit of time, at least Tommy did, going after Michael himself. But same here with Allison. I felt like her role in this movie should have been something different. It should have been more of an evolution, setting her up for that badass role in the third movie where she just takes over and takes that fight to Michael. Whereas opposed to this one here, where they were trying to come together for that fight, but they just kind of missed each other. She should have been growing. So yeah, another miss on the script on this one, I think. But the actress herself, she's ready. You know, if they write her the right role in the third one, she's going to be fantastic. So I hope that's what we see next time.
All right, Koner.
Yeah, same thing. It's missed opportunity. I mean, the thing is, especially if you go back to watch the first Halloween remake, it's all about her and her friends and the boyfriend, and then you get to part 2, and I had to remember that okay, they had a falling out, and she barely even acknowledges any of her friends and the boyfriend. It's like he says I'm sorry, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I think that does show though how like I think that, you know, what they were trying to get, like they really weren't, like they were trying to move on quickly, I think, from those characters. Like there's you're right, because she never does mention her. Well, then you know what? Does she, I can't remember. I'm trying to think back. Does she know that her friends are dead? I can't remember if she knows about
Only
her.
the one kid who is the one who was impaled because his mom finds the body in the morgue.
Right. I
is
don't
just
know if she
open.
still even. Yeah, we don't even know if she knows her best friend is dead yet. I don't think. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I thought they had, you know, they definitely advanced her to the point of where she's starting to get a little bit of that, like that definitely Laurie Strode bit, because like the part when she thought she was gonna get, and she's like, do it, you know, and she wants him to like, it's like she's like, you know what, I don't care, I'm not afraid of you, I'm gonna either kill you or I'm gonna die trying, kind of thing. So they're definitely doing that good parallel to what Laurie's become. And I think, you know, I think kind of like, you know, they advanced her, but I would have, you know, I just, it's hard to judge, I think, still for me. I mean, I always like her in both movies either way, but so I'm actually really looking forward to see what they do with her in the third one, because the third one's supposed to take place, I think, 4 years later. So there's going to be a lot to explain, I guess, bringing in there, because obviously this is all one night. This first movie and the second movie is literally in a 24-hour period. So that's kind of a, you know, that, and when you know, when movies do that, it always tends to be tricky, you know, when because now you're like trying to, you know, not just continuity wise, but you know, and then the next one, now you're skipping ahead 4 years. Well, what happened now? We need to know. And you know, now I just hope they don't spend the third one, like the first 20 minutes, like just sitting there trying to recap everything. But as for Alice, I think she's a great actress, definitely, and she's definitely great for the role. And I think like she's only going to get better in the third one. That's my prediction. I think she was good in this one, great in the first one, great in this one. I think she's going to get even better. But the next two characters we can almost like are quick, basically. But we'll do first is Hawkins, obviously, who really didn't have much. Well, actually, current Hawkins didn't have much in it, but we obviously get a backstory to him where they're really trying to put him in. So how do you guys feel about that? That they're basically taking a character that was, you know, kind of a, you know, it's supposed to be like a new character introduced, but now they put him way back into so he's involved in this whole lore now that was never there before. So how do you guys think of that?
I'm a little torn on it. Mostly positive, because when I was watching this, I remember about, maybe, you know, 5 to 10 minutes into the movie, I was thinking this might be the best Halloween sequel ever, because they really nailed the feel of the original with all the flashback stuff. And I love the flashback stuff. I thought it was super cool. I thought it was super cool that they were showing us stuff that we didn't get to see in the original movie. You know, what happened with the cops that were investigating, all that kind of stuff. I thought that was pretty neat. I thought it was a neat take. I guess my problem with it is when they brought it forward into the present. And as much as I like Will Patton, I love him and everything, it's one of those characters I'm like, do we really need this? Is this, you know, isn't this just, you know, kind of fan service, kind of exploded out to a point that we didn't really need it? It almost felt a little bit like filler to me, when I would much rather have seen that time spent on our main characters and the people that we really care about. I mean, yeah, it's great. It's neat that we know what the cop did and all that stuff. But I mean, in the entire arc of the Halloween franchise, nobody cares about the cops. They care about Laurie. They care about Michael. They care about Laurie's family. They care, maybe some of the ancillary characters like Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace. Those are significant enough from the original film. I can see giving them a bigger role in this one. He was not one of them. As much as I love the flashbacks, I think he probably should have just stayed in the flashbacks, honestly. And that's no reflection on Will Patton, because I absolutely love him and everything. But I just thought, bringing these, I don't know, bringing that whole storyline into the present was just unnecessary.
And what do you think about this, Ken?
Yeah, Will Patton, I'm totally with you on this one. Will Patton is, a 2 thumbs up character actor that has been around for freaking forever. Everything he's in, he's fantastic. It doesn't matter if he plays a good guy or a bad guy. So from a actor's perspective, I think this is not even worth talking about. But just like Tim said, that the character itself, I thought it was going somewhere. And had it gone somewhere, I think this would have been okay. When he said, "Oh, it's not about you, Laurie, it's about me. I created this. He's after me," and all these things. And I thought, well, maybe there's some sort of weird flip coming, and there's more to the story, and there's going to be a big surprise. Kind of like there was some big surprises in the first one with respect to the family, but there wasn't. At the end of the day, it just all kind of goes away and falls by the wayside, and it does feel like filler. And I think that's a shame. You take. And I got to tell you, that was the theme of all these cameos of actors for me in this movie was filler, 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 and fan service. 100%. You've got Anthony Michael Hall in a role that should have gone somewhere, and it felt like it didn't. Right? Big John and Little John. What a great couple there, but what the hell was the point? If these were just, cannon fodder for Michael to kill, they were overdeveloped. They were too funny. They broke kind of the feeling of the normal Halloween movies. None of those were particularly light when it came to humor. There's always a little bit of gallows humor in these movies, but it's never light. And some of these characters brought that, unfortunately, to the table. Now, Will Patton didn't, that the cop didn't. I liked the story they had for him. But like Tim said, I guess in this movie, the cops weren't the cannon fodder, it was the firefighters. So I guess that's a shame.
Yeah, firefighters, I'm sure, not too pleased with this film.
Probably not.
What about you, Mr. Cohn?
Same thing. I felt like the beginning was setting something up. Like when the officers, forced to shoot his partner with Michael Myers there, and then Loomis shows up and he says, "Did he kill again?" Technically, he didn't. So I think that's the guilt that he's taking on, is making Loomis believe that Michael has killed again. Now, Woody, of course, he was minutes away from killing him anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's, again, like you were saying, if it's part of a setup of like this guilt that he's carrying around.
Yeah, well, I think too they're going to show that like everybody who thinks they're responsible for Michael will not be, like, because there's also Hawkins is upset because he stopped Loomis from shooting him. Well, we know what was Loomis going to do? He's been shot 100 times already. Doesn't do anything. So he in his head too, he thinks like, oh my God, if I would have just let Loomis kill him, this all would have been over. It wouldn't have been, obviously, though. They're trying to set up that he's more than what he is. He's not human anymore. They're trying to make this, they're trying to really definitely get him towards the supernatural in some way. Because they say it multiple times. Like Laurie has a line like, "Oh yeah, no man would be able to take that." And then someone said, "Oh, the more he does that, it's evil." And we'll get to him when we talk about him specifically about certain things with him. But but yeah, so they're truly trying to show that it's another character here that thinks, oh, he's responsible for Michael. And I think they're going to eventually try and show that nobody really is. It's not. He is going to be shown as just pure evil. And no matter what you think, all the self-importance that they put on all these characters, that, oh, I was my fault, I didn't kill him, or Laurie, oh no, it's my fault, he's coming after me, I brought him back here. You're going to find out. I think the more in the third one too, you'll find out that it's just not going to be, that's not the case. So let's just hope they keep going with that. They don't backpedal and then try and make it about too much, but we'll see. And then quickly we just go through, just because he's one of the other characters that came back that we mentioned before, was Cameron, who everybody disliked, I guarantee you, in the first film. The character, not the actor. The actor did a great job, but he goes from like kind of like a really like a dick in the first movie to kind of someone, it's like a very different character jump in this one. And I thought he was the one that I think changed the most out of the two movies at some level, where he went from like a total character that you hated to one that you started to probably like a little bit because he changed. So how did you guys feel about that change? How he went from that to now like a kind of a heroic character?
I honestly didn't remember who this was, and so that tells you the impression I had of him. I don't even remember him from the first movie, and in this movie he was complete. No, again, not talking about the actor. Actor's fine. The role is meaningless to me. I didn't even remember who it was.
I figured you'd be upset because he threw a perfectly good cell phone into a cheese dip in the first one, Tim, and you're a techie guy. I figured that would just drive you crazy. So I'm surprised you didn't.
That just shows you the importance of the character. It was so forgettable. I didn't even know he was in the first movie, to be honest. I haven't, now granted, I have not watched the first movie in a while. So forgive me for that. I did not watch it in preparation for Halloween Kills. I just went straight in cold. But yeah, I don't really have any thoughts on him.
Okay, so hopefully Ken does, though, or this is a really bad segment. No.
No, I think it can help you with that. Yeah, had I gotten more than 5 hours, maybe I would have watched the other one. No, I'm not giving you a hard time here. At least not too much. No, that's great. Dylan Arnold, I think, is the actor.
Yep.
That kid rubs me the wrong way in everything he's in, but in a good way. I think he's supposed to. He's kind of one of those guys that plays kind of a slime ball.
Yeah.
I think he was just in the show You on Netflix, if you guys watched that at all. In the third season, I'm getting not a whole lot from Steve and Tim on this one, but that's a great show if you haven't seen it. Very
I need
dark.
to see that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
No,
it. I like
what
Victoria Pedretti's in that, right? I need
Yes,
to see it.
and everything about her is fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm a little over effusive here with the praise, but you ought to check it out. Yeah, he's in the third season. He plays kind of like this teenager next door that's in love with her, and you just want to punch the guy in the face. He's just awful. But as a character, yeah, in the first one he was annoying, and the second, in this one, I felt like he got what he got coming to him. He got his head turned about 180 degrees around by Michael after getting stabbed and beaten and smashed around the place. So I felt like he was a prop. Not even Allison was particularly upset about him getting destroyed. She sat there in that very scene where it happens and, grieves for about 5 seconds and sulks for a moment and then carries on. To me, he was just cannon fodder.
What about you, Mr. Cohn?
Same thing. I felt he was, really underwritten in this one. And honestly, I think this also plays more into the larger theme of Michael trying to feed off fear now, because like when he, like you were saying just now, when he was killing him, I mean, it was more than just a quick kill. It was like, how long can I just toy with this prey and just keep slamming him between the slats of the stairs? And it was the same thing if you think about the old couple, when he kept the housewife alive long enough to witness him like putting every knife in the kitchen to the guy. It's like he's almost like toying with people now just to like build up his own strength.
Yeah, that is a good point. And that could be where they're heading with Michael's supernatural abilities. And that's why maybe that's why that mob scene is so powerful, because they had to show so many people fueling him. But when we get into more of the dislikes and likes section of the movies itself, I'll mention the scene about that mob scene from the trailer. But I'm kind of the same thing. I definitely hated him in the first movie. Not the actor, the character. But you're supposed to, so he did a great job. This one I liked, not so much his character in there. I just kind of I think the relationship he had with Lonnie, his dad. I thought that was kind of cool. It's like you kind of see why the way he is. He's kind of like, Lonnie was a little brat when he was a kid. But you also see that he took some abuse himself in this. So it's always that whole same storyline, a bully's being bullied by someone's always being bullied by someone else. So, one more message this movie's trying to get across, I guess. But yeah, no, I thought I liked him better in this one just because, I think where his role is. But I did notice the one thing is like Julie even said something about this too, the change where it's like, he's basically comes from a party where he's just been a total dick. And then all of a sudden he's super caring about, Hawkins, like, oh my God, dude, are you okay? Oh my God. And, now he's a hero, but you know what? It worked for this. I mean, he could have been in and out of this movie, in all honesty. They could have had anyone play that character, but I mean, I think for what he had, the actor did a decent job. Now, of course, I see the best for last out of the characters from 2018 to now. Well, I mean, I guess the sheriff we didn't go into, but he's not that big of a character. Michael, of course. So everyone's favorite, of course, to discuss here. So we'll let Tim start off with how he thought Michael was in the first one versus this one, and how he liked him now.
I actually thought Michael was an improvement over the first one and this one. In fact, it was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie was the brutality that Michael had in this one. Granted, he was brutal in the when I say the first one, I'm talking about 2018. Yeah. And granted, he was brutal in that one, but I had a major problem with the 2018 version, and that's when he's supposed to be pure evil, but he spares the baby. And that really bugged me. If this guy's pure evil, he'd kill anything. He kills dogs, for Christ's sake. So you can't say it's because, the baby's innocent or, I mean, I guess you could argue that the baby wasn't in his way. Maybe that's why he spares him. But if you really wanted to make the character purely true evil, just have him kill the baby. And that was one of my biggest gripes about his character in 2018. What I would say a biggest gripe is it was a nitpick. And this one, I thought, just as Steve was pointing out, some of the stuff he did, like with the toying, the cat and mouse, just some of the kills were just super, super brutal. And I think they really did a better job in this one of showing just how evil he really is. So I love that part of it. I thought that was the best part of this entire movie was Michael's character when Michael was on screen, when he was doing the kills. And I'll have to say, this new trilogy has done by far the best job of capturing the look of the original Michael with the mask. I know it's not exact, but in some ways it's kind of almost better in a little bit of a sense, as blasphemous as that may be. It just looks so super scary. I just thought they've done a great job with the look of Michael in these two movies compared to some of those sequels were just god awful. Yeah. Mask replicas. So kudos to them for really pulling off a very, very scary Michael villain for these two films. And yeah, absolutely my favorite. Now, a minor nitpick is towards the end where the mob is kind of surrounding him. I mean, he does he does get his revenge on the mob, let's say, but for a little bit, it felt a little hokey to me. I'm going to be quite honest. The mob surrounding this guy just and like taking turns walking in and fighting him kung fu style. Like it was I was like, I mean, the whole mob should just jumped on him and ripped him apart. I mean, if you're really trying to kill the guy, instead of you got one, there's a meme going around, the lady that's coming after him
with the iron. Yeah, tell me that's not the Wilrow Hood from from Empire Strikes Back with the ice cream maker. That's like this character is she's gonna have her own fan fiction. I'm telling you.
I already saw somebody refer to her as Iron Maiden, which was
oh, that's awesome. That's great.
But yeah, so I mean, that part was it teetered on being a little too hokey for me because I was like, what are they going to do? Take turns and like Michael's going to fight them off like kung fu style. It just looked like they were in a circle around. I was like, come on, guys. But anyway, he did redeem himself, thank God, out of that goofiness. So yeah, I love Michael. Michael was the best part of this entire movie, and I'm hoping Laurie gets the same amount of attention in Halloween Ends that Michael got in this movie.
What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, I think, we saw some growth in Michael in this one, which is really hard to do considering how old the character is and how many times he's essentially been rebooted and, reinvented. Agree with the mask, the shape. I'm not an expert on the mask. I know there are folks out there that know all the different iterations, and I understand there are a number. But I agree with Tim that this was a great one. I like the scorched look. And I felt like, when he came out of the burning house, yet the water was dripping down. That was one of the coolest scenes I've seen him in a long time, maybe ever. But when it comes to growth in this character, I feel like, and some of this I'm coming up with as we sit here and talk, so I'm probably full of crap. But the bottom line is the character in the earlier movies, pursuing Laurie and being after just her, not even the Strode family, but just this one girl. Single-mindedly obsessed for whatever reason. We don't understand the exact connection, but there obviously is something there. It feels like perhaps back then he was young as the shape, and he fed on her fear. And we're now seeing this growth to where he's feeding on not just her fear, but he's figured out that, the fear of these huge groups of people, a whole, mob, a whole town, a whole hospital, maybe at some point, I guess he wasn't there. All that fear feeds him and makes him stronger. So maybe there's something to that. I'm making this crap up. I'm not an inside guy who's got this information from the writer or who's an expert on these things or has really thought about it much beyond this conversation. But I think we're seeing some of that there. He in the old movies, he was an absolute shark. He was like Bruce, the shark from Jaws, right? He was single-minded. He was an animal. He had no fear. He had those cold eyes, and I know that Tim's going to go right into this doll's eyes right here. Kevin will be proud of me for bringing this up. But bottom line is, right, he's evolved into this juggernaut and an absolute one-man army, just destruction and evisceration all around him, blood everywhere. And Tim's right. I think they broke that for just a moment where, the Iron Maiden gets him down to the ground, that the mob gets him down, starts kicking him like a dog, and he's actually twitching like a man on the ground who's getting taken down by a mob. And again, I feel like they were trying to get preachy about mob justice there, even though A, he freaking deserves it, right? Obviously, he's pure evil, and we're all in agreement on that one. And B, it doesn't make sense for the character. What was he doing there? Having a kick, having a laugh. Like, look, I'm going to make him think I'm down and then get back up and slaughter them all. That's stupid.
Right? Like Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
Gets knocked down and gets back up again.
Right. There's no good explanation for that. There's absolutely no good explanation for that. And it shouldn't have happened that way. But they needed some sort of, quick suspense and drama there in that scene, I guess. So they did it. I think it was another one that kind of broke the field. But that character has evolved along with Laurie over time, I think. But this one has been the best iteration of Michael I've seen, even though, again, I felt like it was a little bit misused like every other character we've talked about. But at the end of the day, where he's going and where he's headed, where they're headed with this character, I think is 100% the right direction. Right? He's turning into something utterly unstoppable, even beyond the old Michael that crawled out of a freaking well after getting hit by a car or, getting burned down with a house. He still seems to be getting more powerful, and they're still communicating that. So I think that's pretty awesome.
I found the mask thing interesting too. He really could not be without that mask for a second. When he gets the mask pulled off, it's almost like he loses some of his power, which I thought was an interesting take. And then, once he's able to pick that back up again, then he's back to kicking ass again. It's almost, I don't know if it's supposed to represent like a security blanket for him, or what does it represent? I'm interested to see I'm interested to see where they go with that.
Yeah, because when Karen took it and ran away with it, I think that was the exact point, right? She turned into a decoy based on the stupid mask alone, right? I don't quite remember the context of the scene. I hate to say, because I've seen it once now, but he was after, I think it was after Allison, and she took that mask and ran, and he followed her.
It was almost like the sweater. It's like the sweater in Friday the 13th. It's like the only artifact that will stop him for a second. So if you grab that mask, all of a sudden he's like, oh, what do I do now? I mean, it's the only way to like stun him. It's like a boss level. That's your stun attack or whatever.
That's your moment.
That's your moment that he's vulnerable. And it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right on.
Yeah, Cone, you were saying something. You said you're saying the same thing, right?
I am. I think part of what makes Michael though is I feel like he only goes after people like that he feels is a worthy adversary. Like you see him never target kids. He didn't kill the baby. This is the first time he definitely killed one of the trick-or-treaters that was at the Myers house, right? One of the kids, because he had the masks. He left them on the other people's bodies.
Yeah, he might have. Yeah, that was left open. I think he definitely killed one of them. He put it on the nurse and the doctor characters after. But yeah, I think he must have killed. He had that one. Yeah, the two kids ran away, but the third one was. Remember, they said we're waiting for him. So he probably. I always take it that he was killed, but.
Right.
I felt like that was implied in that scene.
Yeah, but it's funny too because he doesn't kill Lonnie in the flashback where he could have. It seems like so. That's an interesting thing. That I wonder if that's going to get explained later. Why, I mean, he obviously there's certain like why didn't he kill him? I don't know. Maybe because the cops were coming. I don't know, but and the mask is definitely interesting now. They're definitely trying to establish that mask because even in the 2018 one, remember, when he held that mask up at the podcaster guy held the mask up and everyone's starting to go, oh, they're freaking out because they sense, like they sense what Michael senses, even though he stands there motionless, but everyone knows something's up with that mask. And that's basically how Lindsay survives. She was dead to rights. I mean, he had her, he was about to kill her, and she just managed to get his mask off enough that it distracted him, and he had to readjust it. And I don't know, maybe he developed OCD somewhere, but he had to get that mask on perfectly again before he turned around and went after her. And that's so there is going to be something with that mask. Maybe I don't know, maybe there's some kind of backstory to the mask that'll be revealed in the third one. I don't know. But I do like that factor that they as inhuman as they make him, they do show that, because remember, they keep saying, oh, he's got no weaknesses and there's no way to do it. We can't do anything. Look how many times we've done this and he's still alive. Well, there's obviously something to the mask. So it's going to be, I don't know. It's, again, to go to the video game analogy, maybe that's what you're going to have to do. They're going to have to knock that mask off. And then everyone's just got to go fire their special weapons at him. I don't know. We'll see. But so I guess the next thing we'll go into this a little quicker because I don't want to run too long here. But let's go into the new characters that came in. And when I mean new, I mean also includes the returning characters that we haven't seen in the 2018 one. Like first, I only mentioned, but Lonnie Elam. And Lonnie Elam is one I think that he's kind of like, for Halloween fans, he's, everyone knows who he is. I think the modern people that kind of jumped in may not have realized what a factor he had in the first one, how he bullied Tommy Doyle, and how he get your ass away from there, Lonnie sequence, like that. A lot of people maybe not even bought that connection, but so it's interesting to see Lonnie come back now. And now he's, it's like the typical thing, your friends in high school that maybe they didn't treat you so good, but now you're adults, you're kind of hanging out and stuff. So he was in the group again. And so I actually, I'll start off on this one just to be, because I'm kind of going on it, but I actually like the Lonnie Elam character in this. I thought he was, it was a character that I kind of think like you almost didn't think you wanted until they gave him to you. I don't think he might, like, you could have also not put him in there, and I don't think you would have necessarily missed him, but the fact that he was in there to me enhanced it. I don't know how you guys feel, but I really liked his character in this. Yeah,
Lonnie was the kind of my unexpected surprise for this movie. I really, really liked his character. I almost liked him better than Tommy and Lindsay returning, to be quite honest, which is weird because he wasn't a major character in the original like they were. Not that they were major characters, but they actually survived a direct attack. So I really liked his character. I thought it was cool that I thought it was interesting that he had such a slight brush with Michael when he was a kid, yet it still was impacting him decades later. I mean, he was still traumatized by this. And I just thought it was a very interesting thing to see. And like you said, Brian, I think you summed it up perfectly. He's the returning character I didn't know I wanted. And I agree, he could have been left out with no harm, no foul, but I really, really liked his character in this one. And maybe it's just Robert Longstreet's performance was just so good. He was great. He was so good in this. I totally bought in that he was Lonnie for whatever reason. I just totally bought into it. I mean, I was in more of a way than I did buying that Anthony Michael Hall was Tommy Doyle. I'll get into that when we get to his character. But my unexpected surprise for sure was Lonnie.
How do you feel about Lonnie, Ken?
Well, let me preface this by saying you guys know I love you both, but no, forget this guy.
Really? Wow.
Robert Longstreet did a nice job with that character, but this is one that I felt like was just more window dressing. We have too many damn characters that, had they been developed, would have been worthwhile, but we had 3 movies worth of characters that they could have brought back one at a time. I like the idea that they brought folks back that he missed, so to speak, right? The ones that he passed over, like Tommy, that he brushed up against and somehow skipped or didn't get to, however you want to look at that. And in some cases, he finishes the job, obviously. But, why was he there? What the hell was the point? It was just yet another one where it's like, okay, did you need 10 more minutes of footage to pad the movie? Why this character? Why not somebody else? There was no good answer to that for me. So again, the character itself, the actors, there was some bad acting in this movie. He was not it. I think that he's a talented guy who did a nice job with what he was given, maybe better than many. But why the hell was that character in this movie? I need an answer. I hate that we have so many of those questions. You know, you said a lot of great things just now, Brian, when you talk about, hey, maybe they'll explain the mask. Maybe they'll explain this. Maybe they'll explain it. Well, damn it, it's going to suck when they don't. And I'm afraid that they're going to let us down on that, because you can make 2 more movies and, you know, take 2 movies worth of time to explain all the things we still have questions about. And we know there's only one left, and they're going to have a lot of things to do in that one. And it won't be a 3-hour Lord of the Rings movie, you know?
No.
So
will not be Return of the Loomis or anything like that.
That's right. Oh God, if Loomis comes back, we're really
can you imagine?
Oh my God, wouldn't that be something?
Well, I was in all honesty, I was afraid they were going to do that, because that's what I heard rumors way back in the thing, that they were going to bring like a Loomis descendant.
I mean, they kind of did, right? He was in this one, but they left it.
Well, no, I meant like they were going to have a Loomis, like someone in his lineage, come back to fight Michael.
Yeah.
I was like, that's too easy. Don't do that, please. So
yeah, that would have been low hanging fruit. I'm glad that they didn't quite that low. But so I don't completely disagree with what both of you said. I don't think that that's crazy, but I felt like, again, the utilization of these characters was kind of slapdash and haphazard. It's a sad kind of misuse of a lot of talent, and that goes for a lot of the cameos in this movie. Great actors that were doing their thing, some of which fit, some of which didn't, and some of which just didn't need to friggin' be there. And I think he was one of those that, although good, could have been like a deleted scene, if you ask me.
What are your thoughts on good old Lonnie there, Cone?
Lonnie, I thought Lonnie was a well done character, because it's interesting, because you got to remember, in this timeline continuity, series, Michael Myers has been locked up in the asylum for like 30-40 years. So I don't know why these town people are panicking, but he's the one who has the map and figures out, okay, you know, he's going back to his house. He's the one who's carrying a collection of guns at the ready. So it's like he's been planning and ready to, you know, try to figure this all out. He seems to be the only one putting it all together.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but I see where Ken's probably like, well, I know Ken's thought. He's like, well, why did they give it to Lonnie when they had all these other characters? Right? I can see it in Ken's face.
I do appreciate that, though. That's a really good point, Steve, that I didn't really put together. So he's kind of the guy with the answers when it comes to what the hell's going on. Like, where is he going? What's he going to do next? Right? Just like in Jaws, again, kind of that one-minded animal. Somebody finally figures this thing out. And in my opinion, there's Quint in the movie, Jaws, and this one, I guess it was Lonnie. But yeah, I agree. You know, that could have been anybody. Maybe that should have been Allison. Maybe it should have been Karen. I don't know. It didn't need to be yet another freaking character, because it seems to me like they're just trying to pad the mythos, you know, and they're kind of just catering to us with this fan service of, oh yeah, remember this guy? Remember that girl? Right. And they just bring them all back for one more big slaughter fest.
Well, I think too, one of the things I think with that also, if you think about it, right? So Lonnie was one of these characters. I think he's there to show you that, like, even the people you'd least expect to be effective, like, because everyone has his mindset that, oh, the Strodes, they're the ones that, oh, look at poor Strodes. Their whole family's been destroyed. And it's funny enough, Cameron's line, the one where he goes, look, he's infected my family. He's infected your family. You know, or no, actually he went first. You infected your family, he's infected my family. So it's like, I think what they're trying to show is, and it was hard probably to get this all in with into a slasher film, because you want to just see certain things. I think they were trying to establish, and again, poorly through, I think, the mob scene, is that, you know what, he could affect more people than you think. It's not just it's Haddonfield. It's not just Laurie. But again, we'll see more in the third one. I think there's going to be a lot. I think this is going to be one of those movies that just change. People's opinion will change more again once you see the completion. We'll go next to, of course, this is the breakout characters, of course, and that's Big John and Little John, who, of course, they were there for, some sort of comic relief, but they also served a very interesting purpose, because they are the first people that's not, in any of the movies, I think, even all the sequels, all the timelines, to actually live in the Myers house again. That's not a Strode, because, of course, in Curse of Michael Myers, you had Tim Strode was the brother. The other, whatever, the younger brother. This was the original Strode's brother, the real estate guy that lived in that house. But so it's interesting to see that, like, the Myers house, like, was still utilized, but it was all brand new, and it was like, it was, but yet they knew what the house they were in, and they used it like, they kind of got off on it a little bit. They kind of liked the fact that they were living in the Myers house, and everyone, I think everyone is like they want like side stories to Big John and Little John. Everyone loves it. And I will say, when I was at the test screening, they were like, from the Q&A afterwards, they were kind of like off the charts. Like, everyone loved that. Everyone loved that sequence. Everyone loved all they're in there. And damn, can Little John make a good charcuterie plate, because that thing looked delicious, I have to say. But so I love their characters. I think everyone else did. But of course, it's like one of those things. It's like Ken said, it's a little bit of comic relief, but I welcomed it. That's still one of my favorite sequences, is when they're in there, and they, just all that they do between scaring the trick-or-treaters from, just a little comedic, because you always need a little bit of these comedic moments in there. So how did you guys feel about the Big John and Little John roles?
Well, I'm a huge Michael McDonald fan. I've loved him since way back in his sketch comedy days. So
yep.
I love seeing him on film. I thought the characters were great. And I even understand the reason for it, that they're occupying the Myers house, a little bit of comic relief. I had no problem with that. I think the only problem was that they were trying to be fit into a movie that didn't need any more stuff packed in. I would have rather them take out some of these fan service moments and to make room for these guys. When Ken was talking about, it brought to mind the idea of these superhero movies where they introduce like 4 villains in the same superhero movie, and they're all cool, and I want to see them all, but it's just too much for one movie. And I feel like they tried to pack every background character from the original Halloween into this one film, and they didn't have time to develop any of them correctly. And I think that was the biggest flaw in this movie. So while I love Big John, Little John, I like the idea of it. I thought it was super funny. I thought they were charming. They're another piece of this puzzle crammed into a movie that's already overstuffed with fan service. So, in my mind, you take out some of these other take out the Will Patton and put Big John, Little John in. Take out something else and put these guys in. But on top of everything else, it felt a little bit too overstuffed for me. Still love the characters though.
Ken, we know you had mentioned them before. You like them. How do you feel that they fit into the movie? Like Tim said, do you think they're kind of like on the they're kind of like, you want more of them? You wanted or you just like them where they were? You just thought that that something else should have been replaced?
Well, let me give you I don't know, maybe this is a strange statement, but let me give you a concept. I think those two fit great in a Friday the 13th movie. I felt like Friday the 13th had more of that kind of goofy humor that Michael McDonald brings to the table. I expected him to do, Stewart. You guys remember when he played Stewart on Mad TV? Like, I was expecting at any moment. When I see that guy, that's what I see. He was always that guy for me, was just a complete freaking goofball. And they were such lovable characters. They were fantastic. But I felt like they were clipped out, and Jason should have come through the freaking door, not Michael. Michael Myers movies, I think up to now, and maybe I'm missing something. There's probably experts out there who watched every one of these 100 times are going to say, Ken, you're AFU, man. You're screwed up. There's plenty of great humor in these movies. But this felt a tad too goofy for me. I like Tim's observations about, kind of the fanboydom that they bring to the table. It's like they're living in the Strode's house. I'm sorry, Michael Myers' house. And they kind of thrive off of that, right? They use it against the kids that are little shits that are giving them a hard time. Pardon my French. I guess that brings it to PG-13 now. But they take that and I like where they go with it. I just felt like the fit for the movie was wrong. And like Tim said, it was so crammed to the gills with these cameos and special little scenes. It felt like we had enough there for an entire, DVDs, or I don't know, at least one special worth of taken out scenes. And this was one of those that was great. I love watching it, and in a vacuum, it's fantastic. There is some good stuff in there, but it didn't fit. To me, it doesn't fit the feeling of Michael Myers. we're going with Michael Myers is growing and becoming a greater evil. He's not just Laurie Strode's problem anymore. And these two dudes are screwing around and having a charcuterie board.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right to me. So I felt like it was just out of place. Great acting, great scenes, but just out of place.
All right. What about you, big cone, little cone?
I didn't mind them. If you remember in the last movie, there was a running sense of humor with the best friend who was babysitting the little African American boy. So there was definitely humor that was playing through that one. So same thing. I feel like this was, to just diffuse some tension here and there. And same thing. It's interesting when Big John and Little John are explaining to these kids in town about who Michael Myers is, and they'd never heard of him. So when you have an entire town that supposedly is this mob mentality, he's coming back, he's going to get us. How do these kids not know who he is?
Well, I think that's where that whole message with the mob thing is, that people are just blindly going because it's a mob. Hey, we're going to go after Cone. You've lived it. Even though you live in Jersey, you've been in the city enough. You see people get on lines. They don't even know what they're on line for in New York. They just see a line and they step on it. And it's like, you go all the way to the end and like, it's the guy selling peanuts, it's, I think that that was definitely goes back to that whole like mob thing where it's like, they're trying to push that, like, why don't you find out what you're really looking for before you follow? I mean, they're chasing a guy that's, obviously not Michael Myers, but yeah, no, I definitely a big fan of Big John, Little John. I do think they need to have like a prequel with them in it, it's like, but and funny trivia piece I will give. So Michael McDonald, funny enough, of course, played Little John. He's the only person who have been killed by Michael Myers and Mike Myers, because in Austin Powers, he played the henchman that got rolled over by the steamroller. So talk about piece of trivia. So maybe there's like some weird kind of cross universe where like Michael McDonald's, where Little John, he has like 9 lives. He's always around. He can just appear anywhere. But next one, I'm going to pair these two up, not because they don't deserve their own thing, but I think because they're the two surviving final kids from the original. So, and, it's great to see them back. I think they had drastically different performances. I preferred one over the other, which I'll get to. But and that's, of course, Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace. Well, I love Anthony Michael Hall. You know what it is? He was to me, as much as I loved him in it, I think he was over the top and he didn't match the child Tommy Doyle. Like, I mean, granted, you're talking 40 years later, but still, like, Tommy Doyle was this meek kid, and now years later you got this big gruff, I'm gonna, night night Michael, I'm gonna take old Huckleberry here and I'm gonna I get it, the years later, but he's like, I don't know, I feel like kids at that age, he might have adapted better. Kids are resilient. Yes, he was chased by a maniac, but really just for a few minutes, and then he ran out of the house. So, I thought Kylie Richards. For some reason, I still say Kyle, but it's Kylie Richards, right? It's Kylie, right? I liked her much better actually in it, because I thought she was the right amount of. They used her properly. I thought it was cool how she kind of. She was the one that kind of gave you like almost like a sneak peek on a way to possibly defeat Michael, or at least distract him. And I thought she did a good job. It was good seeing her back from, that she, and the fact that, she actually played the young Lindsay Wallace kind of gave me a little bit of an edge over that. Granted, and everyone said, of course, Paul Rudd was originally going to be in this, but it was his Ghostbusters schedule. He couldn't, but even that's not the same. I think, in all honesty, as much as I am the biggest Paul Rudd fan, but I think he would have been even more of a distraction. I think that would have been so detrimental to this movie to actually have Paul Rudd in it, because everyone would have been like, it's Paul Rudd, and then there's you're out of the movie. And they said that too. A lot of people, I saw a lot of comments from the actual, the production saying, and it's kind of probably better that he didn't, because Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. But yeah, so I like the return of them both, but I actually enjoyed Lindsay Wallace's character slightly better. I thought just Anthony Michael Hall, as much as I'm a big fan of his, I thought his portrayal, and not that he did what he was written, was just a little over the top and little over aggressive for someone I don't know, growing up 40 years later like that. But
Yeah, I 100% agree, Brian. I never bought Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle. Not once in this movie did I buy him as Tommy Doyle. Lindsay Wallace's character, on the other hand, I totally bought into the fact that that's who she would grow up to be. I just think his character was horribly written.
yeah,
Like you said, Anthony Michael Hall did what he did with what was on the page, which is fine, but it wasn't written correctly. It wasn't right. I thought that they missed a really good opportunity to have Tommy and Lindsay like team up and
Yeah.
figure this out. And because they were the two kids that survived and they knew what had happened back then, that they somehow team up and figure this out. Instead, he's kind of just going off on this rogue riot thing by himself. She's the brains behind the operation. She ends up figuring a lot of this stuff out, but they really missed the opportunity to pair those two up and have them really equals. And then instead, I felt like he just came off as this like big ogre that just kind of steamrolls through everything. And I've already seen the Pulp Fiction memes of, say evil dies tonight one more time, mother effer. I mean, I was getting so tired of that.
Yeah.
It was, I literally cringed every time he said it. Like it was such a dumb slogan. It was so irritating. And then just another example of how this movie doesn't make any sense to me. So he organizes this mob, which that's another thing. I work in a hospital. That shit would not fly.
Yeah.
Not fly, not for a second. I know it's a small town. I know they're stretched thin, but you would not have 100 people mobbing through a freaking hospital with patients. And that just bugged me really, really bad. I mean, we call.
Were they too? Who were all them? Those people that were in the hospital. Who were they after?
And then the sheriff, at some point just sits on the steps and gives up. Like he just gives up and just, oh well, nothing I can do about it. I guess it's the mob's running rampant. Just nothing I can do.
What color code is that for the mob and unkillable killer?
Yeah. We'll call a code. I can't remember there's an actual code for unrest or whatever, but you have hospitals have their own security department. Again,
well, that was the line I loved. That was one of my favorite lines was Judy Greer's line, which is said kind of low, but you can hear it because it's from Allison's point of view walking out, where she goes, shouldn't there be security? I assume there'd be security, and she's like yelling it in the background. And it's almost like she's like the Tim's conscience in that scene.
Well, it's also an acknowledgement by the writers that they had no answer for it,
right?
Which sucks. That just shows you wrote a shitty script. Sorry, but anyway, but I hated the fact that he organizes this mob to the point that a guy kills himself. That's how bad he does it. So instead of going, oh my God, this was all a big mistake, and stopping everything, he just takes a smaller mob out to go kill the real Michael. I mean, so he doesn't learn anything from this whatsoever. He just continues the oh shoot, made a mistake. Okay, let's go back to the mob and pitchforks and torches and stuff. I thought his character was completely illogical. Again, I never bought into it for 1 second that this was Tommy Doyle. Sorry. Lindsay was a great character. I liked her character. I could have watched her all day long. I wish they had just removed Tommy from the whole movie, honestly. But if they were going to put him in, at least pair him up and have him do something.
Yeah, and she did in an interview, she confirmed she will be in Halloween Ends. So Lindsay will be returning. So that's good. What do you think, Ken, about the final kids?
Yeah, I can play a little bit off Tim there. That was good stuff, Tim. And the real feelings are coming out. I love to see this. The frustration there. Sorry, you wrote a terrible script. Yes, I'm totally with you, man. A couple of little things that I took a little bit differently than you did. So when I first saw Anthony Michael Hall in that role, I said, you know what? This is exactly what we needed here. This is great. I'm going to love this guy. And then we get to Evil Dies Tonight, and I was jumping out of my skin. It was terrible. It was just absolutely over the top, and it was awful. I'm totally with you on that one. What I thought was coming, what I thought would have been good, was to get the survivors together with Laurie and build a sort of coalition that takes him down. Laurie's a total badass. The others don't even have a chance against him if they were by themselves or even in a small group. But maybe if you combine them all and kind of cross the streams there. They could somehow take him down together. That's where I thought it was going, and it didn't. And your observation of what they did with him in that hospital is 100% spot on. It was total trash, man. There was no point to that. It didn't teach us anything. It didn't tell us anything about the characters. It didn't progress the plot, really. It was a giant freaking distraction. And so, yes, thank God Paul Rudd wasn't in this one, because, what are we going to do next? I don't know. Put Keanu Reeves in here? It would have been terrible. But this is just another one of those little facets of this movie that is overblown and that is a giant distraction from what really matters, which is what's going on with Michael. This whole thing that he's mainly involved in is just a distraction. And by the way, what the hell is the deal with old Huckleberry? It's not even his damn baseball bat.
I know. He stole that bat.
He took it, and it's not even his. And what is the guy's connection to Michael? I don't really understand. Maybe I missed something there with old Huckleberry, but that didn't feel like it was his weapon to wield anyway.
No, I think it was just the bartender was saying he used to play baseball or something with his dad or something. It was something with it. It had nothing to do with Michael. It just had, but the guy said something, like the bartender said, he's like, well, you use that if you need to or something.
Yeah, but he's the first one to say, Tommy, that this guy is absolutely supernatural and unstoppable. And he goes after him with a goddamn old baseball bat. Are you kidding me? I mean, what next? A rolling pin?
Wait a minute,
right up there with the iron. It makes no sense.
It's not just a baseball bat. It's old Huckleberry. Can you show some respect? I mean, that bat's been sitting in a bar. So that bat's got powers.
From another missed opportunity. This is a little bit off of the character of Tommy, but Tim said it about the hospital. So I'm not quite as, hospitals can't do that as Tim in this one. I get it. You work there, and this is how I get about Navy movies. Submarines can't do that. But at the end of the day, Omar J. Dorsey is a fantastic actor. That guy plays a badass in everything he's in. He was the sheriff.
Yeah.
What the hell? They took this guy who is a badass in everything he's in, and he even carries himself as one. And the guy basically sits down and quits. What was the point? He was completely freaking pointless. They built him up to be at least like a minor resistance to Michael, and he turns into a freaking wet rag, and it's just terrible. It's another one of those where it's like, this guy's going to be somebody. Nope. Another distraction, another red herring. You can't figure out where the hell this movie's going, because it's not going anywhere 90% of the time.
What about you, Cone?
Yeah, Tommy was a disappointment to me as well. I mean, he totally ruined karaoke night at the bar. With his spoken word Halloween speech.
Yeah, I was promised bird calling or whatever he was supposed to do, right?
That came off hokey to me too, for some reason. Everything about his character was very hokey.
Well, I mean, think about that one, Tim. You're 100% straight, just right on. So you are in fucking Haddonfield. You gotta have to edit that out. I'm sorry. You're in Haddonfield, and he's holding this speech at a karaoke night on Halloween about Michael Myers, and everybody just takes it and claps. I mean, really? If that had happened there, is that the reaction that you would have gotten from these people? Get out of here. Garbage.
Well,
Garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they were trying to say kind of like, I think what was his line? You're either too young or too drunk to remember. I think he's like, and now I could be wrong on this. I'm just thinking that maybe they're speaking to trying to show like, look, you guys forgot about this. I didn't. Our friends didn't here. We survived it. You guys moved on, but we never did mentally. But still, it wasn't delivered strong enough to have the impact I think that they wanted on it, which is the problem, because now you just look like some drunk guy in a bar going up there promising a bird yodeling or whatever he was supposed to do and coming up with a weird poetry. And Tim and I have seen, well, we've heard about people holding court in a karaoke room, which Richard Grieco supposedly had the ultimate holding, which we didn't get to witness. We only got told. I know we missed something good, Tim. But that's a story for another time.
Brian, you bring up a point. Everybody in the town forgot, yet apparently they're so enraged that a housewife will grab an iron to go track down a serial killer. I don't get did they forget or did they not forget? I don't understand where this movie's going, because I'm at the beginning of the movie, I'm told that everybody's forgotten and nobody understands how serious this is. And by the end of the movie, they're going after him with freaking irons and an ironing board.
Do you think maybe she just noticed his outfit was wrinkled and she was trying to help?
I mean, granted, the jumpsuit's probably wrinkled after 10 movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is they kept showing the newscast so much. So I think part of it is the news feeding into the, like all these firefighters were killed, all these bodies were just found. And it's just fueling that same thing, that mob mentality.
Yeah, that's true. And
We should
actually,
have
that
looked
could be why there's so
lower.
many people in the hospital. It could be like a family of the fire department, like because they showed the mother of the friend Oscar or the friend. So maybe that was it. But still, I feel it like it was really weird how they turned into like they just came in there demanding something, which I assume was to find out answers. But then all of a sudden they turned into a mob, and they kind of, I guess, they forgot their family. They forgot. I mean, you know what? I was going to save this for later, but we've been talking about the mob so much. I might as well say this now. So that during the Q&A, that was probably the most criticized part. And when I remember it now, I don't know if they necessarily cut stuff out or edited it different, but I remember that I felt like it dragged on even longer when I saw it in the test screening. Like, and I remember coming back on, and I even wrote that on my card, mob scene too long. And I think they were like, especially when they were all chanting "Evil dies tonight," the whole thing. I think that went on for like another 30 seconds, if I remember correctly. And it was like more and more and more. I think what they did is I don't think they cut it out per se. I think they re-edited it because it was about the same length of movie when I saw it versus what we got as a final. But they definitely tightened it up. They did some kind of tightening because I remember it not bothering me as much this time as it did the last time, but yet it still bothered me. So you guys are so bothered by it. So imagine more of it. So at least they seem to listen to try and cut it tight. Like they still wanted it in there, obviously, as it's such a crucial point or whatever they're trying to make. But, who knows? Maybe again, I hate to keep saying this, but maybe in the third one, they're going to go back to this and maybe that could be a plot point of like, remember, you guys went after someone and some innocent guy died, and now maybe they don't take it seriously 4 years later again, and that's their downfall. I don't know. Who knows? We'll hopefully get more answers, but
can we also talk about how that guy looked nothing like Michael Myers that they were I mean,
well, that was the thing. That was another thing. There was a lot more of them chasing after him before. At least I remember from the test screening. I'm almost positive. I remember them like constantly thinking, how could they still think this is him? How has no one said it's not him yet? So they definitely cut to that scene quicker, that realization that like Laurie and Karen saw, and they're like, that's
that was
not Michael.
so dumb.
But what I want to understand is like, yeah, but remember that here's the thing. I think I still hate that sequence, but I will defend it on one thing. You got to remember, you got a bunch of people there that don't even supposedly remember who Michael Myers was. So for all they know, he could have been 3 feet tall and chubby. I don't know.
20-something years.
Yeah. So, I mean, all they know is they see this guy, but they went out right on the newscast that supposedly riled them all up and said 2 people were missing. So the fact that they automatically assumed that was Michael just walking around the hospital, running from people, the most horrible killer supposedly in the town's history, is running, going, help me, help me. There's
no mask, no blood,
no mask,
not
no
trying to kill
nothing.
anyone.
But
yeah, and the thing is, if I can justify it on paper, but if it draws out a feeling in me while I'm watching it that this is dumb, then the movie hasn't done its job, in my opinion. So, I mean, I shouldn't have to reason it out on paper why they would think this. I should automatically know that from watching the movie.
Right.
And I don't. When I'm watching the movie, I'm going, this is ridiculous.
Tim, that's right back to your comment about you wrote a bad script, right? That's what it comes down to, is these movies take, and especially a movie like this one, should not take deep introspection and reflection. That's where we're at here. I was sitting here, it came to me that I think what they were actually doing in the hospital scene, if you really think about it, become introspective, do some analysis, I think they're actually implying that there are many more victims we don't know about, right? Yeah. While Laurie's laying there, they're rolling people through that we didn't see get attacked. So maybe there's some sort of inference that he's killing more people or injuring more people, or God knows, maybe there's crazy people out there doing it because it's mob mentality, God forbid, right? But it's causing all this hate, discontent, injury, death, fear. And that's what created the mob in the hospital, because there's so many people there that are there for an injured relative or friend or something. But, we got to sit here and have a 4-way conversation about it for 2 hours to figure this shit out. That's not okay. That's not how you do.
The whole mob mentality thing scares me a little bit, because this feeding off of evil thing is getting dangerously close to an explanation that I don't need. I don't need a druidic rune to explain his evil. I don't need him drowning in a lake. I don't need anything. Michael, I've always loved. He's always been my favorite horror villain, because he doesn't have an explanation.
Right.
He's just evil for the sake of being evil.
Which is why Rob Zombie one we don't like because of that. But
I don't need an explanation for why he's evil. I just want him to be evil. And now we're starting to teeter dangerously close to an explanation I don't think I want.
Well, I don't want to spoil this, but I heard a rumor that possibly what fueled his evil is because he was not offered some of Little John's charcuterie. So, but that just might be a rumor at this time. We don't know. But
by the way, guys, I have to ask you, what was up with Michael Myers setting up Big John and Little John together and putting on the record for them?
Yeah, that's true. He did put on the record. He put on an album for them because they walked in and a record was playing.
Yeah, it was staging corpses a thing before. I don't think I remember that.
Well, in the original, he did stage corpses. Remember, he put the tombstone.
He staged Annie, with the Judith Myers.
I mean, he does have a flair for the theatrical. Maybe.
Yeah, he put PJ Souls in that little like cabinet. He Bobby hung up on the wall.
So
yeah, no, he does stage. He does stage it from time to time. And plus, they obviously he kept a very nice decorated home. He probably just wanted to keep with the feng shui that was going on in their house. And
turning on a record is a little weird, but okay.
But the funny thing, if you notice, and this is only something that I would notice, he handpicked that record because if you look, the stack of records were all 45s. There's only one song, and Big John was listening to that Halloween song, and then it became that dance song. So whatever that was, May I Have This Dance, right? Was that the one? Yeah. So he actually went through the record collection. He actually handpicked the perfect song.
Like, can you imagine him flipping
I know. It's
flipping the album cover over. Look, now put that one back. Grabbing another one. Like, that's the stuff you don't see.
That's the deleted scene I want to see. I would love to see what Michael reading through the thing. Like, what is this? Pac-Man Fever? Nope. I would love to see what he picked on there, and leave it to Civil Gore to get through that side story of Michael's music. But I know we're going long here, so we'll get quickly move on to the next. We'll just do this because you know what? This is the one returning character. Actually, these next two, because I don't think they were utilized well enough at all, and that's but there are two characters that people I think love, and that's of course Dr. or Nurse Marion Chambers and former Sheriff Lee Brackett. I like the fact that they included her. I don't know why she all of a sudden was hanging out with Tommy, Lindsay, and Lonnie. She was not a member of Haddonfield. That was just a weird fan service push. We're going to get these 4 people together. Not needed. Brackett makes more sense. He obviously retired from the police force, but he kind of, he's got to do something to keep his mind off of what's going on. So he became, I guess, he became a security guard in there, and, definitely kind of, but like, I feel like, if they put him in there, he should have been at least more of a role. He was in it way too quick to, and I love Charles Cyphers. I think he was just a great job, and he was so great in the original. I wish he would have had more of a role. I wish they wouldn't just have him in there for, the slaughter at the end. Like, hopefully, I would have almost wish he would have done something like, he had that cool line, I guess, with the, everyone deserves a good scare. That was a fun callback. Haha. Okay. But what he should have done is, if they really brought him back, wanted to give him justice he deserved, he should have walked in there and grabbed a police badge off of one of the dead cops or something somewhere and said, I'm hiring myself back on the case or something. That would have been kind of cool. But again, both of them I thought were, it was great to see them, the original actors, but I think they way underutilized and pretty much wasted.
Yeah, I almost take the opposite approach in that I almost feel they should have just been cameos and not even been in the movie, other than a brief cameo, because the only reason they were in there was for fan service, especially Marion Chambers in the car.
Yeah,
that was so orchestrated to get her in a car with Michael on top of it.
And she rolls the window. You see her roll up the window to set up the scene.
It was, I literally rolled my eyes at that point in the movie because I knew it was such fan service. I don't mind a little bit of fan service because I'm a pop culture nerd. I like recognizing things and doing the Leonardo DiCaprio meme and pointing out that I saw something that I recognize. I don't mind a little bit of that, but it really was distracting in this movie to the point. I mean, like I said, they tried to cram so many ancillary characters in here that this was just, it was like the cherry on top of fan service for this movie. I thought it was, as much as I like seeing her, I like seeing the actress, I thought it was cool, but don't put her in a car and have Michael. I mean, come on, guys. That's as bad as some of the crap they did in the Star Wars movies where they were, I just that stuff really bugs me. I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy writing.
You're totally right, man. It's not just one cherry on top; it's a whole damn jar of them poured on top. That's the crazy part that they did here. So I think I don't write scripts. We've seen a couple movies, the four of us. So I'm just talking like a fan here. But how do the best shows and best series, best movies do this? These references to characters like that are usually very small references. It's a passing scene. It's a hey, they find the body and she's dead in the car, and they go, oh, look, it's her, right? That would have been enough. We didn't need to see the whole damn setup and the murder, and that for every single character, right? Every one of these characters was set up and then left alone, and nothing was done with them. So don't set them up, right? Bring them up in a conversation. Have a screen in the background flash, latest victim name such and such, that sort of thing, and then focus on one or two that you're actually going to make something out of. But these were all trash. They brought them up and then they discarded them like an old bag of freaking popcorn. It's terrible. So yeah, it's all fan service, and there's just too stinking much of it. If you're going to do this, do it very casually. Do it where the real fans might catch it. Maybe even have to watch the movie twice to catch it. But don't rub it in our faces and then walk away.
I almost felt it almost exploitive of the characters and the actors, almost in a way. I mean, I don't know why. It made me uncomfortable in a way. It almost felt like they were exploiting these people. It almost felt like I don't know. It's like,
well, they didn't do it right. They left their clothes on, so it wasn't done right.
Yeah, no. But it's like when you see a perfect example. The only example I can think of right off the top of my head is when you had the old Universal horror stars, and they would bring them back, like in the early 60s for a movie and have them play a vampire or something. They've been washed up for years, but you kind of drag them out just for this one last thing. I kind of felt like that's what they were doing in this movie with some of these guys. I was like, you're dragging them out of retirement or the convention circuit one last time to put them on screen for this tired franchise. And it just rubbed me the wrong way with these two.
Yeah, Cone, you feel the same way?
Same way. It didn't add anything. It was nice to tie in Halloween 2, which I feel like the last movie didn't really do, but it really wasn't necessary.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to not be canon technically, but yeah. I mean, Halloween 2 is supposed to not be there anymore, but I guess they got. You know what would have been funny? Like if they would have had like in the background, you just see an orderly, and it would have been like Lance Guest just rolling a gurney. Like that. That's the kind of cameo you should have had or something. But
you nailed it, man. That's exactly how that should have gone.
See that's why Tim is more actually what I mean, the only reason why I said there should have been more of like bracket is because they introduced them already to that past the point of where it's not a cameo anymore, it's a role. So I'm like, don't give him like 30 seconds. Or don't give him 2 minutes if you're not going to give him 10 minutes. But the fact that if he should have either been in there like quickly or like a passing fleeting thing or something, or you know what they could have even done with him? They could have totally had him as like on an interview screen. Like I remember when I was a cop back in, there could have been ways to really get them back. But the next characters I had, I mean, we could just go really. I mean, they're really only a carryover from the 2018 as they kind of walked by. Julian's house. That was Marcus Vanessa. That was a nurse and doctor. They were in it for comic relief victims / like they were kind of like those like just the regular people, but I thought they were fine for what they were. I thought they were entertaining, and that's really nothing more than that. I think they were if any two roles went in, two characters I think went in there just for the perfect role that they had to be, and I think it was them because they were there to introduce a couple of laughs and then they're killed.
Yeah, cannon fodder. Move on. Next.
Yeah.
Don't care.
I think they're a rare example of this movie of how they did it right. There was enough humor there for me, but not too much. It wasn't so incredibly goofy, right? There was a little bit of funny stuff in there, like, I'm a doctor, I'm dressed like a nurse and all that stuff. I liked how she ended up, shooting herself in the face because he kicked the door at her. Right? That's the level of humor.
That was cool. That was cool.
Totally, right? That one was
they had two of the best deaths too, which is funny. They two of the best deaths in the movie.
Yeah, Marcus's kill was my favorite kill. Too.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Those were really well done. So that's a rare example of how it was done right. And I thought that part was promising. It just goes downhill from there.
Yeah. So and finally we're gonna do a quick one just because I mean he's very in it very briefly, but as brief as it was, to find out this was not CGI and more of a 12 layers of latex to make this, the return of Loomis in the flashback scene, which I thought was, I mean, the ultimate fan service, I think, in the movie was to see Loomis return, of course, in that role. And I'll tell you, I mean, yes, you could tell it's not Donald Pleasance, but I'll tell you, they got as pretty close as you could possibly do without CGI or resurrecting the guy from the grave. I mean, I liked seeing Loomis. I thought they used him the perfect amount. He was basically like in it where he should have been, and that was it. They didn't have like a whole Loomis backstory. They didn't have all this added Loomis scenes just to show off Loomis. They did a lot of work for the short scene, and I give them credit for that because I think they did a good job at the little Loomis segment.
Well, apparently we haven't reached the point where CGI can pass for practical effects, but we have reached the point where practical effects can pass for CGI, because I totally thought that was CGI.
Yeah, I did too. I couldn't believe when I found that it wasn't.
Yeah, it surprised me. I had no problem with it. Even when I thought it was CGI, I had no problem with it, because it was, it was at a distance enough that it didn't look bad. And they were trying, like I said, the 1978 flashbacks were some of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought they were super cool. So to see Loomis, which is actually a recognizable character, I thought that was absolutely cool. I thought that was totally well done. And I would have, I had no problems with that at all. I thought that was super cool. I think it was just enough to give you a little taste without overdoing it to the point where you start noticing it's not Donald Pleasance, and then you start getting distracted and blah, blah, blah. Then it goes downhill. Perfect right amount of Loomis.
I don't mean to be Debbie Downer about this one. I agree with what you're saying. The scene itself was handled well, but why the hell was it there, right? It's back to the cops portion of this that in the end just turns out being pointless. So it feels like they wrote his story just so they could bring Loomis back because they wanted to, which in the end burns my ass again. I don't like that. But like you, I mistook the practical effects for CGI, and I thought it was well done, and I like that. Right, they nailed that character in that scene. He was Loomis 100%, the way we would expect him to be. So I'll take that as with a grain of salt. I'll take that as a positive. But again, the real reason he was there was not a good reason. There was no reason for any of that crap to happen in the end that we can tell now. I know, God forbid, Brian, I hope you're right, and the great hope of it'll all be explained in movie 3 will happen. I'm just being a little negative about it, which will not surprise Tim.
Okay, Cone. You're the final say on Loomis here.
Honestly, I'd welcome Loomis in the last one. I feel like he's been in such an integral part of the series that if he can theorize or explain anything of why this is, or I mean, again, at the end of the day, Michael's just Michael. There's no explanation, but he's the one who knows them best, and he's the one who's been in the most, most movies, I guess, or close to most after, Jamie Lee and The Shape himself.
I think definitely that was overall though a really great part. So I guess the next things we'll do is just go through a couple of things here. Like obviously I had on the list here plot points, which we kind of already got into just based off the characters. So that it ended up flowing really well. I'm glad we did the characters first because I think that got to a lot of the plot points. But I guess we'll do it overall. Overall, I think I thought the movie with its for lack of a better word, mistakes and sequences, I still thought the way the movie progressed by the end was still successful. I mean, there was a lot of fluff that didn't need to be in there, and I would have rather seen some of the mob stuff replaced with maybe just either Tommy and Lindsay or just Karen and Allison. I wish. Because I think that the most successful, I mean, if you think about it, the most successful Halloween movie was the original. And it had a very small sense of characters. It had a small scope. They always felt isolated. And that's what, to me, is why the first one was always my favorite, because it gives that sense of isolation. It didn't give you that, like, I feel like here there was always someone around, that like, Michael's there and there's always 30 people around him. It seems like almost always in this, and so to me that, and he ends up taking him out. But the whole point is like, it doesn't give that kind of that like uneasy feeling. So, I mean, but overall, I think the plot and the arc of it, I think was good. I just think there was some, I would have preferred things a little differently. I would have taken out or at least lessened that mob scene to like maybe just that one of the sequences. I don't think you needed the multiple mobs, but I don't know how you feel about that, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about my likes and dislikes, so I'm not gonna, I won't rehash that there
Yeah.
right now. But I find it interesting that I've seen more than one person who liked Halloween 2018 and did not like this one, or vice versa, did not like 2018 and really liked this one. And it's kind of interesting to see that I've seen it from more than one reviewer, which is kind of puzzling to me. But I kind of fall into the camp of I liked 2018 more than this movie. I thought this was a step down. I think it was a step down in writing. I think it was a step down in the fan service, which I thought was really heavy handed. I thought the moral lesson of the mob mentality was super heavy handed. I thought they tried to cram too much in. I think the movie was a little bit of a mess. I think they've got the beginning and I think they've probably got the end. I think Halloween Ends is going to be a better movie. But I don't think they quite knew what to do with the middle section. And what I would have done personally would have mirrored the original Halloween 2. And I would have had Laurie go to the hospital, but I would have had Michael show up at the hospital. And I would have had, even if that's not the entire movie, I would at least had a portion of that instead of this whole mob thing, which is just a complete distraction. I don't know where they're going with it. If it's something tying into this feeding off evil thing or whatever, I just thought it was somewhat ridiculous. So I would have completely taken out the whole mob thing. This is a town that apparently doesn't care or does care, depending on what segment of the movie you're in, about what happened 30 years ago. So I would have just taken all that out and just really kept that focus on Laurie and Michael. But I say all this, and I wanted to really stress this point. I'm comparing this movie really to this timeline. I'm not comparing it to other timelines because in the great scheme of every Halloween movie, this is a great movie. I mean, it's a great for if you like Michael, you like seeing Michael kill people. It's a great time. I mean, it's a fun time. I mean, compared to some of the more terrible sequels we've had, it's a way step above. So as much as I'm criticizing it within the timeline that it's in. It's too fresh for me to rank all the Halloween movies together right now as to where this one would fall. But if I'm being a little harsh on it, it's because I really expected a lot out of this final for now trilogy. So I am being a little harsh on it, but I'm hoping that Halloween Ends, ties it together in a way that this movie makes more sense than it does to me right now.
Yeah. So I'm gonna before we go to Ken and Cone, real quick. So do you think, and you guys answer this too when it comes to your turn to talk about this? Do you think that some of the people that did disliked it maybe could the build up and delay for a year where everyone thought it was coming out? Do you think that could have built up the anticipation to too unrealistic of a level? Because I think some people thought okay, they had 2 years, they worked on this, the thing is going to be perfect. Even though they were done with it. I mean, they weren't.
That wasn't for me. That wasn't it for me at all. So, and I see Tim shaking his head here. I think that I didn't have excessive expectations for this one. I think that Tim's points are spot on, right? Excessive fan service, heavy-handedness, and just kind of missing the mark on the things we wanted to see happen between Michael and Laurie and Michael and Haddonfield that just weren't there, right? I think that was what really got me down. I don't think I expected, Star Wars Episode 1, this is going to be the greatest movie ever, and then it sucks, right? That was one that was definitely built up and that contributed, aside from Anakin, to me not liking that movie. But, this one, I was wide open and I was ready for popcorn, a light, not really heavy movie. And it was definitely popcorn fare, but it wasn't well done. And I think the script is just not good. The writers for this one try to do too many things. It's like they sat in a boardroom and said, what are all the plot points we need to get in here? Let's get out the yellow stickies, right? And they had some freaking brain trust of interns come up with this instead of somebody that cares about this plot and these characters that would have known to not overdo it. This one's just overdone when it comes to that stuff. So that's where I'm coming from.
I bet you one of those yellow stickers said charcuterie on it, though. I bet.
That was a good one. I'll take that one.
What do you think, Cone?
Yeah, the thing about Michael Myers is you got to go back to the original Halloween, which the babysitter murders. It's all about like him going into your homes. You don't know where he is, and then after he kills somebody, he's staging it so that whoever finds the body is going to be scared as well. And a lot of this movie, it's like you guys were saying, it's a lot of this movie is there's people in teams. He's out and about, so there's not as much of a scare factor. I mean, I enjoyed it. Kills are still brutal, but it's not as scary anymore.
Yeah,
can I
that's a
jump on
good
that one?
point. It didn't
Can I
have
jump on
those
that?
moments.
I think what it is it's the point of tension, right? The first couple of these are extremely tense. And when you're watching characters that are alone trying to get somewhere, right? The goal is get help so I can survive. In this one, we knew help didn't matter. There was no help. Everybody was out and they were still losing. And that just takes that tension away and turns it into a slaughter fest, which in itself can be entertaining. And those are probably the folks that enjoyed this, right? The ones that really love this movie are the ones who don't care so much about the longer term plot and maybe the characters, in my mind. I'm being judgy here, but it's the people who enjoyed the Slaughterfest, that juggernaut that comes out and slays, 11 firemen and then goes on and levels the mob. Those are fun scenes and I enjoy those, but not from Michael Myers. I want Michael to be that guy who is kind of fighting a small group of people in a vacuum who are striving to get help. Every time the four of us play Friday the 13th online on the Xbox, what's the thing we're trying to do? Get the hell out of there, maybe together, maybe separately, to get the help, to get away from this guy. But there's something that can help us. In this movie, that tension goes away because there is no help. It's just Michael slaying the world. So you lose that tension. You lose that what if, you lose that rooting for something particular to happen. And you just go, okay, well, what's going to happen next? Let's watch him slay the next 15 people.
Yeah, I agree. That's really, I think, and that's what I was saying earlier too. It's like the original one had that like sense of isolation that this one doesn't have. It just, and in so much so, like, it's funny. You always see that meme that goes around in the horror boards where it says, and it shows like it says hospitals, and it shows like what look like in this one with 100 people crowding around at a desk and moving around, and then they say hospitals and horror movies, and it shows this like blue hued empty hallway, and I'm like. Yeah, and it's like that's why, I mean, Tim will tell you that's why Olivia won't watch Halloween 2, right? She's like, because she hates the hospital scene. And in
Right.
this one, it's like I'm like good, let Michael walk there. There's like 300 people in there. You could easily get away from him. There's a million people he could go. He doesn't have a machine gun. He can't get them all at once.
You just don't want to run the slowest, right? You don't want to be the slowest zebra. That's all it is in that case.
Yeah, and it's funny too because that couple that gets killed in the beginning, Lenny Clark and his wife, that group, it's weird. She does a very bad thing where like he gets, he's getting killed and he walks in, she's trying to unlock all the doors. Well, she unlocks it all the locks. And instead of, and like Michael's still on the other side of the room and he's proven he's not really moving that fast, just standing there. She didn't even attempt to get out the door, but she grabs the knife and tries to defend him and then doesn't even swing the knife. So it's like, but at the same time, as silly as that scene is, that's the kind of things you kind of expect. That's like a typical like slasher, they make bad decisions sometimes. So I think, when you add all these mob scenes in there and he's going against the mob, it's like, I don't know. There's something off about it. It just doesn't make sense. Now, granted, if it was just Lindsay and Tommy, like we said, that might have been a better thing to do. That might have been a lot more palatable, I think, in the end. And this is, and I'm one of the people that still really enjoyed this movie and really liked it overall, even with all my with my criticisms of it. It's, I still love it because I love Halloween movies, and I love seeing Michael Myers. So it's like I always still find all the cool, the cool stuff that I like in there was enough for me to still like it as a good movie. I guess to summarize, we'll finish up here, and we'll go around and ask everyone for their favorite part and their least favorite part. I think we were all in agreement with the least favorite part is, so we probably could even skip that, I guess. But let's just go around for everyone's favorite part. We'll start with Tim on this.
I don't have a specific favorite part. I just would say my favorite element of this movie was that Michael was still extremely brutal. And I enjoyed every scene with Michael in it, except for him getting his ass kicked by a lame mob at the very end. But other than that, I loved every little scene that he was in. I think they've done a really good job with his character and the creepiness of the shape and his brutality and his evil. So that to me was the best part of this movie, and the only reason I give it a higher rating than I probably normally would.
Ken, your favorite part?
Yeah, I'm with Tim on Michael overall, particularly for me, most specifically. And this is going to sound a little bit hypocritical because I just pissed and moaned a little bit about the crowds. But the scene where he comes out of the burning house, I think that one is fantastically shot. It's beautiful in a terrifying way. And Michael comes out as, just absolutely terrifying. And that when you look at the guy like, man, this guy means business. Then he comes out and wastes the firefighters. That's the last time I wanted to see him kill a bunch of people, though, right? Because those guys were surprised. They didn't know what was coming. They said, holy crap. Well, we got this guy. We've got these firemen's axes, right? And then they all get slaughtered. That would have been a good point to make there and then carry on from there without having him face down the other mobs. But I thought it was beautifully shot. I like the colors. I like the tension that was in that scene. And I like just the expression of what a monster this guy is. We talked about pure evil. That is really well embodied in that scene. So I really enjoyed that one. I think that's probably, for me, the highlight.
Mr. Cone.
Yeah, same thing. It's definitely the firefighters because it's a combination of all the weapons they have, and then they go to that POV where after he cracks the firefighter's mask, you're seeing him kill people through the mask.
Yeah.
That
was cool. Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite sequences too, because it was one of the more realistic ways that a killer left for dead came back, because he really never died. I mean, he never died, like, because he was, literally the house was burning. They started to put it out, and basically the house was crumbling around, so he could walk out. And the funny thing is, he could have easily possibly just got out of it once the house started to crumble anyway. But I like the way that they chose to show that he's still like full strength brutality. And yeah, and I did like the even though it's like, obviously that the cheesiness with Marion scene, I still love the two kills. You know how I'm not a big fan of eyeball things, but I did like that the guy, the eye stab and the shooting herself in the face one. I did like that sequence. And I will say, and two, of course, Big John, Little John, that whole sequence too was great. And that was one of the more brutal kills. I mean, I don't know why, like, I thought it was odd, but why did he stab Big John in the armpit first? That was kind of weird, but then I liked how he crushed his face in. That was kind of pretty of a brutal kill for a character that everyone liked so much. It's like, I feel like the characters you like got more brutal against them. And Tommy actually got it pretty bad. You just think about that, the way he got killed really harshly. I mean, he basically, his head is splattered by old Huckleberry, I guess, right? Or is that what he ended up using, right? I think Michael took that, right?
Yeah, are we moving on to favorite kill? Because favorite scene and favorite kill for me are not necessarily the same.
Yeah, you could spend. Yeah, I had both on here, but I figured, yeah, you could go on to both.
Because the firefighters was a fantastic scene for me, but that wasn't I like what Steve said about that point of view. I didn't think about that, Steve. That was a really good part. So I like that comment right there, but not overall my favorite kill. I think, to me, yeah, man, I had it in mind just now, and it's getting late. I guess I'm slipping here, getting old. I really enjoyed the firefighters saw that they brought out. That one was
yeah.
Although it started smacking a little bit of Friday the 13th. Let me come back to you, damn it. I just dropped the one that I was really going for. Over to you, Tim.
Yeah, I've already mentioned mine. That was the knife in the eye scene in the car. And it's not that it's a creative kill or anything like that. It just was really well done. It surprised me. It was extremely realistic and gruesome looking. And I kind of liked that. I guess, sometimes simpler is better. And in this case, that simple kill was just so shockingly brutal that it made an impression on me. So that was definitely my favorite.
Okay, got it. I got it now, Brian. If you give me the floor
Yes,
back
sir.
for a moment. So this is actually arguably not even a kill anymore. This is just abuse of a corpse. But this one was my favorite. And this is when so Lenny Clark's character Phil and his wife get attacked in their house. When he uses the guy as the knife block, and just keeps stabbing knives into his back for no reason. The guy's dead, right? He's bent over the counter, hanging there, and he just goes back for knife after knife and puts it in his back. It's that expression of, pure evil right there, to me, was actually a really, kind of profound one in that movie that just said, this guy is a sicko. He's pure evil. It really expresses the evil that is Michael right there. So I really liked that one. That's a strong word to use. But that was my favorite if I had to pick one.
That's good. Cone,
Yeah.
your favorite kill?
Related to that one, I got to go with his wife when Michael just takes that light tube, smashes it, drives it into her artery in her neck, and you just see the blood flowing into the light bulb. And then same thing, she's just watching her husband getting stabbed over and over in the background. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder if they're going to come out with like a Lenny Clark corpse knife block collectible. That'd be interesting. But so I guess the final thing we'll go around. We'll give a rating out of 5 stars. I'll start on this one. I know I criticized a lot of sequences, but overall, since I enjoyed it so much, I will give this actually 4 out of 5 stars. What about you, Tim?
I'm giving this 2.5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, Tim.
The reason I can't give it 3 because 3 to me represents good, and I don't think it was good. I don't think the script deserves to be called good. I give it the 0.5 star over the 2 stars because Michael Myers was a badass in this one, and I really liked his character. So that's where it settles for me. Could change with the third movie, and then put some distance between me and this one. I could definitely see it improving over time, but for now, that's where I'm sitting.
Ken, your rating?
So I think Tim and I are saying the same things. I would say something similar to what Tim said, but I go with 3 stars, and here's why. I think my basis for 3 stars is just a little bit different. I think to me, 3 stars means I'd watch it again, and it has reasonable production value, and it did. Right, I did enjoy it. There were scenes in it where, again, in a vacuum, this was not a terrible movie. It was a weak script, but there were some damn good kills in there. There was some great action. There was some fun interactions between the good guys and the bad guy. And yes, Evil Dies Tonight has got to go. And that, thinking about that, that might be skidding back towards the 2.5. So how about 2 3/4 for me? Almost a 3 star if you take out Evil Dies Tonight. And otherwise, it could have been better with a better script. And if you took the beginning and the end and cut out, 60% in the middle there, I think that would be a 4-star movie for me.
Cone, the final ranking for you. I mean, the rating.
I'll go with 3.5. I went and saw it in the theater, and seeing a horror movie in the theater, you're into that crowd mentality. The body count was high. I was entertained. I mean, yes, there's going to be issues, but I'm still looking at it from the mindset of, compared to like 5, 6, 8, it's a better movie, or Zombie 1 or 2, Rob Zombie's version. So 3.5 for me.
Would it improved if since you hated 8, if Busta Rhymes came out with the iron instead of that lady, or where would that have knocked it down a 0.5 star?
I would give it an extra 0.5 star if Busta Rhymes composes the love theme called Evil Dies Tonight, the remix.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, Steve brings up a good point. If I had seen this in the theater with a crowd, I could probably see myself giving it 3 or 3.5. I probably could have come out with a completely different view. I watched it by myself.
Yeah, I remember I did see the first time I technically saw it in the theater with a really raucous, excited, hey, I'm getting to see a free screening crowd. And they were like, it was cheers and screams. And so I still have that like memory. And that was, and it's weird too, because I probably should preface, I think I always forget if I saw that or Invisible Man, but one of those two, it was definitely my last movie I saw in the theater. Those two were the last 2 I saw in the theater before the pandemic. And I haven't been able to get back to the theater yet. So there's also that kind of like little bit of, kind of addition to my thought of it. It's kind of like, well, that was the last time I was in a movie theater with a crowd, and it was really exciting, and so that's still, those memories come back as I'm even though I watched it on Peacock, but so anyway, so I guess that's it. We'll wrap this up. This was fun. I think this was definitely a new thing. I think we should do this for other big horror movies going
definitely.
I think this is a good thing, for because we're not going to do this for every movie we review, but big ones like this I think should get some kind of fun treatment like this.
And this is probably the most, really, if you think about it, it's probably the most in-depth discussion we've had of a movie that I can remember in a long time, if ever. So I think it's definitely be worth doing for big films if Ken and Steve are
Yeah.
of course, up to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
absolutely.
we even maybe add people into it. We'll get maybe like some make it a big 6-person roundtable or something.
Yeah, that'd be
someday.
cool.
Get some,
Okay,
but yeah, I
Kevin,
think it'll be fun.
Kevin,
I
if you talk about Jaws, that would be fantastic.
oh yeah, you know, it'd be cool though if they do some tie-ins like with the fast food things, like they'll have evil fries tonight, you know, like at McDonald's or something.
Evil pies.
Yeah, evil
God,
pies
here
tonight.
come
There
the
you go.
puns. Oh, I
Yeah.
gotta go. We're
Oh,
breaking
come
up.
on. You thought you'd escape? We gave you
I
almost
got away with it.
2 hours of no puns in this thing. But, you know.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and I'd absolutely love to do this again sometime with you
Oh
guys.
yeah.
Find the right movie to do this with, and if nothing else, I guess we'll do it when the next one comes out, so we can criticize the hell out of that one or laud its value as a explaining third part. Let's hope that's what it is.
Yes, let's hope the iron comes back too, and maybe a little bit of charcuterie. Maybe we'll theme it too. We'll all have our own little charcuterie meal in front of us when we discuss the next one.
I
So
like
It's
it.
been a pleasure, guys.
yes, thank you guys for coming on, especially short notice. It was great, and I guess we'll talk to you guys soon.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Take care, guys.
Do you think by any chance, at least, Michael got vaccinated during the time of the 4 years? Do you think he went at least and got vaccinated? You know, so he did.
There's no need. He's wearing a mask all the time. He's never exposed.
If he breathes heavy, it comes right out.
That's for sure.
Plus, if they're going to kill him, they got to take his mask off. So do they have to take it off and then quickly put one on?